becoming a digital nomad, leaving the UK, packing our bags, taking our business abroad, how we've done it, why we're doing it, the big influences, the big reasons. Dan, great to have you on again, mate. Great to talk to you about this. Tell us a little bit about where you're going, Dan, and your exciting travels.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of dipping my toes in the water at the moment. Maybe about 2 months, I'll be traveling around Bali, Thailand, Vietnam, all these good digital nomad places. Maybe they've been a bit cliched over the years, but I think a lot of coaches, especially in the UK, are still thinking about moving. So it's going to be an interesting chat. I think there's so many benefits. It's almost a no-brainer, but we're going to get into that.
Absolutely. I think, more people are leaving the UK than ever before. I'm not going to go into a political debate or talk about the UK in terms of that, but there's a reason that people are leaving. I think, me and you are maybe not leaving for those reasons. For me, it's to enrich my, coaching company, to enrich my opportunities, Why Rwanda, Dan? Obviously, that's the start of your journeys, isn't it? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So I'm starting in Rwanda. I thought, you might as well dive into the deep end. Why not? It's not as weird as you think it is. It's actually quite a nice country, but yeah, we'll see how that starts. It's always good to kind of push yourself out of the comfort zone, especially before you go into all these places for like a long time, because you want to see how you kind of cope and all this good stuff. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be good content as well. Like
Yeah.
the hook saying like I'm in Rwanda are going to be quite funny, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to Kenya a few years ago on a safari, and I can imagine Rwanda's going to have the same sort of vibes, just endless amounts of open space. And that leads me into that thing about content creation and being in the right space, the right, being able to dip into levels, in terms of being creative. I feel like the UK is so negative at the moment. Even when you go, I've not had a drink in 170 days, but even when I do go to the pub, everyone just wants to complain about England. It's just the mood is bad, doom and gloom. And I feel that impacts on me. That's a big part of me going away, is to be excited, is to, when you're in nature, when you're on the beach, when you're in the sunshine all the time, I do feel that not just makes you happy, but makes you more creative. Do you agree, Dan? Is this a big reason for you to go, to sort of like tap into that creative mindset?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to change your results is obviously to change your behavior. And the easiest way to change your behavior is to change where you are, your environment. So even if the UK was like a really nice place with positive people, I think just making that change, that new environment is gonna like reset something in your mind that's gonna kind of get you into that next gear, if you know what I mean. And obviously in Bali and Thailand, there's so many like entrepreneurs, so much networking opportunity is almost a no-brainer.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Rwanda first, and then where you going to after that?
Yeah, so I'll be in Bali, I'll be in Bangkok, Chiang Mai,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
Hanoi, Da Nang, Hong Kong as well. I'm thinking of as well, just
Mm.
as something interesting. But yeah, we'll see. What about you?
Yeah, so we're hoping to meet up in Bali, aren't we? Maybe do Mount Batur, is it, or something similar, a hike or something. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I'm starting in Spain for 6 weeks, spend some time with my parents before I move halfway across the world, and sort of make sure that, when you rent your house out, it's quite a scary experience, and I just want to make sure that transition's smooth before I go halfway across the world, and, that my wife has a smooth transition to moving over as well. And then Bali for 2 months, Canggu, and I'm hoping that's where my wife likes, if that makes sense. So part of our big thing was to spend an extended amount of time in, let's say the digital nomad hotspots, Canggu, Chiang Mai, Da Nang, and to see what one my wife likes most, so we can maybe set up shop, maybe stay there a little bit longer. But Dan, you've not been to Bali before, have you?
I haven't, no.
Yeah. So I went on my honeymoon a few years ago, and that was, when I went to Bali, was the moment the floodlights opened, if that makes sense, where I had the craziest job on the planet. I was stressed. I didn't quite see a future in it. I didn't know what I was going to do. And you're in Bali and you see all the digital nomads sat on their laptop, sat around the pool, in, you know, cafes. And guess what? They're happy. And not just happy, they're dialed in. You can tell from the vibe and the energy in the area that they're enjoying what they're doing. And it was that moment when me and my wife both looked at each other and went, we can do this. It's not like, we want to do it. Everyone wants to do it. It's that difference between a want and a need, isn't it, that we spoke about? But we can do it. And I guess that's been a big part of my journey over the last 2 years, and me and you working together, Dan, is getting everything we've got into a level where I don't have to sell my house to finance me going, but rent it out because we've got something substantial to take away to keep us there. And that's that real difference between a want and a need. And that's the big thing that we say to lots of coaches, isn't it? Is you've got to have an end goal. You've got to have something that wants to motivate you to get there, you know. So do you agree on that, Dan? What's your end goal? What's motivating you to go for this?
Yeah, I think if you want to build $1 billion business, you're not gonna do that in Bali, you're not gonna do that in Thailand. But if you're like, kind of like a normal person and you're not absolutely crazy psychopath, um, then it kind of makes sense, especially as a coach. You've got that kind of location freedom, you can work from home. More and more people can do that as well. So yeah, it makes sense. And there's obviously a lot of great people there as well that you can
Yeah,
talk to, and they're gonna level you up as well. Like yeah, and especially because it's so cheap. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. Like if you look at the prices, it's like £10 a night for a hotel. It's absolutely ridiculous.
absolutely. I mean, it's not just cheaper; it's outrageously cheaper. My parents come over from Spain a few months ago, and I took them to my local pub, and my dad ordered a beer, which you can have in Spain, by the way. That pint of beer in the pub in the UK was £6.80. That same pint that my dad can get in Spain is €1.50. That same pint in Bali, I believe, is probably about £1. You know, in Da Nang, it's even less. So it's like that is across the board. You know, food, accommodation, you know, travel, everything. You know, and that's what I can't wait for is knowing it does provide you that opportunity. It gives you that great opportunity for growth as well. We just don't have to worry so much about making ends meet. Don't have to worry about all those things that England is and the UK is honed in on at the moment. So I told you a stat as well, Dan, before I come on, and this is something to think about, is 95% of people in the UK don't leave a 5 mile radius of where they were born. So to become that 1%, to become that top 5%, you've got to take a risk and you've got to jump, you know. So do you feel there's an element of that we're taking a risk, you know, for growth, or do you think we're onto a pretty much like a sure thing, you know? What's your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's that much of a risk, honestly, because it's so cheap. Like you're going to be spending less than you would be in the UK anyway. So it kind of makes sense, even for a couple of months. If you've got that location freedom, why wouldn't you take advantage of those
Mm,
opportunities, those connections? And if you do like it, you can stay. So
absolutely.
it's kind of a different mindset over there as well because obviously everyone's business, everyone's entrepreneurs, so they've kind of got that growth mindset and they're kind of more positive
Yeah.
than people kind of taking you down and they don't really want to see you succeed in the UK. I think that's something that's only the UK though. I think even in America they have more like growth mindset where they like seeing people succeed. But in the UK it's a bit of a weird one. What do
It
you
is.
think?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. There is something in the UK where I told you before, and I'll be careful what I say. It's interesting to see how many people you leave behind. You know, friends that I grew up with, etc. They don't like to see you succeed. I'm not sure that's replicated across the world, if that makes sense. There's an element of it's known as social comparison theory, believe it or not, where you know keeping up with the Joneses is the expression, but where you compare yourself to others and you don't want them to do well, or you want to compare yourself to others, is a bit of a sad thing, really. And that's why we're in a unique position, Dan, isn't it? Where we built this to a level, we can take it, see where it goes, and try and expand on it as well. And a part of that is meeting like-minded people, isn't it? And you're going to love Bali, by the way. My best recommendation when it comes to Bali is I think when everyone goes, they go to Ubud or they go to Canggu, which is obviously amazing. But Uluwatu is breathtaking, absolutely amazing. Definitely recommend that. So after that, Thailand. Where's your next stop?
Yeah, it'll be Thailand after that. It'll be Bangkok for a couple of days and then
Yeah.
it'll be Chiang Mai, which is obviously the more digital nomad focused place. And I know quite a lot of people there already as well, so
Oh
it
wow.
really it really does just make sense that um, we try it, kind of make those connections in real life because it's one thing making connections online, but transferring that to real life is just really going to solidify it and um, like kind of make you memorable as well. which is something you obviously want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you something about Bangkok. I've been before. It's absolutely crazy. I think it's the busiest airport in the world, by the way. So that'll tell you something about the area. I signed up to a Nomad community, nomad.com, after I watch a guy called Sergio Sala, and I love what he does. His content. He actually gets some real take homes from watching it. You learn as you're watching it, and that was one of the things that I signed up for. Actually, the place that I thought had the most meetups, when you see, the consistency, or the amount of events that they're putting on, Bangkok looks to be the busiest, which is interesting. So it goes to show that there's lots of people there. And actually, I was always under the impression that Canggu was the number one digital nomad hotspot, and obviously it's right up there, isn't it? But the more I look into it, looks like Chiang Mai is, isn't it? What's your thoughts on Chiang Mai? What are you looking to do there? I know it's real famous for its food as well. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to trying out.
It's also quite close to the tallest mountain in Thailand, which is something that I like. I like doing. I like climbing mountains. So that'll be interesting to do as well. I think places like Dubai, that are kind of like the normal or the old kind of digital nomad space, or there's just nothing there. It's just sand. So I think, yeah, it's interesting. You get a lot of different characters compared to Dubai to Bali. Those kind of two digital nomad. It's kind of a divide, I guess. But yeah, there's obviously opportunities in both, but it's more livable in like Southeast Asia, I think.
Yeah, I think there's more creative energy there for sure. Saying that, I know Dubai is creating a new sort of content creation visa. They're obviously they're looking for people to flood their hands to film their content in Dubai. Dubai's changed a lot. When I first went years ago, it was obviously incredibly flashy, really up and coming, but I felt a little empty. Maybe a little empty on culture. I went a few years ago, and I would say things are changing there for sure. Dubai is going to be, it's obviously massive already, but it's only going to get bigger, and more people are going to go, and they are going to be exciting creative types. Interested to see actually what Dubai is going to look like with this new content creation visa. Something me and my wife are looking at very carefully, which is interesting stuff. So Chiang Mai, can't wait. One thing I liked about Chiang Mai as well, because obviously that's in the north, isn't it? Is Pai and Chiang Rai. I'm looking to go
Yeah.
there. And Pai is obviously this real spiritual place, which is something that is in touch with with the other podcast that I do, the Masculinity Unmasked, which I'm looking forward to exploring. And I reckon that'll be wild. Looking forward to meeting some interesting types there. So for me, after Chiang Mai, I'm taking the overnight train to Krabi and staying there for a month. I went against Phuket. I've been to Phuket before. So I think when people go there, they go to Koh Phangan and they go to Phuket. Phuket I've been before, but Phuket is different these days. It looks very, instead of the culture, looks to be more Lamborghinis. Like that's turning into the Dubai of Thailand, if that makes sense. Koh Phangan looks outrageous, but a little short on accommodation. I didn't think, couldn't find anything which maybe fitted what me and my wife were looking at. But Krabi looks like it had everything. So where'd you go after Chiang Mai, Dan?
I think it'll be Hanoi, which is obviously in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I actually haven't heard of many entrepreneurs going there, but it's an airport, which is obviously important. So I'll be there. I'll be getting the train to Da Nang as well, which will be an interesting experience. Vietnamese train. I think it's just all about the experiences as well for me. Like you can work and you can get the experiences as well. Especially when you're young like me, you haven't really got that much traveling under your belt, so it'll be an interesting time.
Absolutely, and it's obviously an amazing time to go to Vietnam. Still a communist country, but developing massively, obviously, as well. So I'm spending a month in Da Nang, a month in Hoi An. Interested to see whether a month in Hoi An's too long. It might be. I like the look of Sapa. Not sure if I've got that pronunciation right, and Hanoi. So might use that opportunity to go and check out a few places. And then Phu Quoc I'm ending up last, which is obviously like an island in Vietnam. Because my parents have always wanted to go there, interestingly, for fishing, squid fishing. Out with everything. Seems to be why we're going there. So, and then I'll be back to the UK for a month to work out where or not UK, maybe possibly Spain, to work out where me and my wife are going to go full time. So, one of the things I noticed about Vietnam in particular all the accommodation across the board is cheaper than the UK, not just a little bit, massively cheaper. And I would say that Bali and Thailand are at a level, if that makes sense. But then you've got Vietnam, which is just so much cheaper, which makes me think, what is the cost of living like there? You know, can you imagine the lifestyle that you could have off, you know, off a cost of living which is that low? Have you thought about that, Dan?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I've got actually a friend who builds websites on X. He's from Vietnam, and he makes like not that much money in UK terms, but he's like top 1% in Vietnam. Like,
Wow.
so it makes you think like, are you at a disadvantage being in the UK with the high cost of living when you can work remote, especially with not that many networking opportunities for digital nomads, people like that. It is kind of a disadvantage. You've got less money to spend on investing in yourself or courses or coaches, stuff like that. Because you're never too good for coaches, really. There's always bigger fish, so it is a massive advantage going to there.
It's a massive disadvantage trying to build a business in the UK. A 45% tax bracket. Can you imagine that? So the harder you work, the more you get taxed. And in this UK, you're taxed to drive, taxed to eat, taxed to go on your beer when you go out, just tax. So it's like you're inhibited. So the harder you work to get to that level, you're punished. Yeah. I'm not sure it's the same abroad. And I'm looking forward to experiencing that, looking forward to a different mindset. One thing we've talked about off air, which is really, really funny, is how do you pack your life into a 25 kilogram weight limit? Dan, any hacks, anything you've thought about?
I love the thought of being able to like just have a backpack and that's like all I own, everything in that backpack. Obviously I don't have a house and stuff like that, so it's much easier for me. So I literally just take, at the moment in the packing list, I think it's just my laptop, my phone, microphone, and that's about it, honestly. And obviously clothes and stuff, but I don't really need anything else, and I just like that feeling as well. So obviously it's more difficult for you, I know.
Well, no, I think because it's not like me and my wife are just going; we're moving, so it's not like, you know, it's like an extended trip. We are going for, you know, a year upwards, even longer. So part of me has just looked at what's bulky and just tried to cut it down. Even as stupidly as my shoes, you know, it's like I love wearing boat shoes, but if you think how heavy they are compared to say Toms or flip flops, it's a no-brainer that you've got to just scale it down. You know, instead of taking I can't even tell you how many pairs of trainers I've got, but literally trying to think of 2 pairs of trainers to take away, and what ones pack in. Yeah, that's to the level that I've had to think about it. I think the in terms of the tech, as we were laughing, weren't we? This is my mic, the Yeti, which is amazing, but it's far too heavy to take abroad. So I've had to scale it down to try and just be more lightweight, you know, more short and concise with what I'm doing. Dan, have you had to do anything similar? Any other hacks?
I haven't really yet, honestly. I don't like think that far into the future. I think I'm kind of a last minute guy. I just a week before I'll be like, oh bollocks, this doesn't fit into my suitcase. Like, but it is what it is. So I like being flexible, and that's definitely something that you can get more of when you're out there.
Dan, you're gonna laugh. I was packed at Christmas. I'm not moving
Were you?
hardly till September. I
That's
can't help
crazy.
myself. It's just like I'm already done. So, in terms of like advice that I've got, and this is not just from moving abroad, but in my job and all that sort of stuff, I'm going to work away a lot. Is packing bags, the little cubes and stuff. They're great. In the past, I've tried to use the bags that suck the air out of. Sounds great, but they just don't seem to work. They might work for one trip, but then I feel it takes its added weight, if that makes sense. So definitely the packing cubes and blocks are really useful. I tried to pack for a week's worth of clothes, if that makes sense, right? Because you can always wash them when you're there. And one misconception and one word of advice that I give in terms of going to Bali or whatever is you think you've got to take this massive wardrobe stuff, right? You think you've got to take a jacket, a coat, jeans. You just don't need to take it. Just take a week of clothes. It's so cheap to buy there. It's not just
Yeah.
like it's so cheap. So if you fancy a t-shirt, if you fancy, I'm not packing any shirts to go away, because I remember in Bali you can buy them for what we would see as £3-4 every time you go. So it's like I just don't need to pack them, and that's just a change of mindset, isn't it? From like being a consumer in the UK, trying to look a certain way, to actually letting loose, living differently, being more open-minded by it, to moving away. The biggest issue we've encountered, I think, in terms of moving away full time, is my wife's cosmetic routine. Do you have anything like that, like supplements, Dan, or anything that you're worried about getting over?
Nothing crazy, no, nothing like that.
Well, for guys, I think it's quite easy. That's a real stereotype. I can't believe I just said that.
It's true.
Yeah, it is. So in terms of like what we need, it's all there. It's just So again, you just don't need to pack it. So if you think of like all our daily stuff, it's out there. In terms of my wife's more specialist stuff, yes, we're going to be shipping it out there, which is interesting. Which also goes to show that you can FedEx anywhere in the world, which is another thing. So again, nothing to panic about. I was considering FedExing all of my tech stuff out, which is an option, but I haven't done it. When I move full time and I decide where I'm going to be, for the next 5 years, I might consider something there. But for now, it's just not a possibility. Dan, anywhere else on your list that you're looking at going at? Anywhere else you want to go and explore?
I'll be in Singapore as well, which is obviously because you can get a direct flight from Manchester. Just for that reason, I think it's always good to like explore different cultures and all this good stuff. And there's a lot of interesting people in Singapore as well. It's a very interesting country. Like it's very small, but there's a lot of different people there. So that'll be an interesting one.
Absolutely. Me and my wife last summer for a month went to Sri Lanka. It was amazing. My wife preferred it to Bali. I feel like Sri Lanka was what Bali was maybe like before the great boom there, if that makes sense. We'll definitely be going back there. The real interesting thing about Sri Lanka is it was rainy season in one part of the country, in the south, and their peak season in the north. So that has also been a big part of this digital nomad journey, is to work out where the best seasons are in what place, trying to avoid the rainy season. Hence why we're going Bali, Thailand, Vietnam in that order. But really disappointingly, while we've done that trip, we've had to skip on the Philippines, while we've had to skip on Cambodia, where I definitely want to go to see Angkor Wat. But you've got to get there at the right time, otherwise you're just going to be, I think in Angkor Wat, I can see it can get up to 45 degrees, or you're flooded in rain. So you've got to get that time just right. Have you given that any thought, Dan, in terms of like times of year, or you've just looked purely at the location?
I've pretty much just looked at the location. Like it's a different perspective kind of when you're moving there compared to when you're going there for a couple of months just to meet people and kind of get ahead in business, really. But yeah, I think I don't see myself living somewhere like that forever. But it's a useful tool for everyone, really, every coach, to make those connections and to get into that different mindset as well, take it up a gear.
Yeah, it's interesting talking about not living somewhere forever. One of the greatest tips I can give people is to see your life as a movie and a plan where you're going to be in 1 year's time, 3 years' time, but ultimately 5 years' time. It's probably a good gap to leave the UK, a good gap to explore growing a business for 5 years. And then after that, like I said, if the business is at a level or you want to return back to the UK, you've always got that option. But I'm interested to see, Dan, when you go and experience it and you have a different lifestyle and you're in the sun and you're around like-minded types, you might change that opinion, of not trying to be somewhere forever. You might go, actually, hang on, you have that tick box moment. And the Thai 5-year DTV visa is fascinating. What an amazing opportunity for someone like me and you to do. Doesn't take the biggest level of investment either, which is a really interesting thing. Let's say years ago I looked at moving to Ibiza, right? The difference between moving to Ibiza for a year or having a five-year DTV visa is night and day, by the way. Night and day. I think the easiest long-term visa to get at the moment is Portugal, which is obviously an option. I think you've only got to have a few £100 in your account and prove that you earn a few £100 a year to move there. But the 5-year DTV visa in Thailand, where you can stay for 6 months at a time, I think is fast. I think that is a great opportunity, especially as the links out of Bangkok are so good. So you don't have to stay there. You can go in and out, go to Bali, Cambodia, etc., etc. So interesting stuff. Have you
We'll have to have a follow-up podcast
yeah,
when we're there 6 months.
Absolutely. Have you looked at the visas, Dan, and stuff, or sort of?
Well, I'm just going for such a short time that it doesn't really matter at the moment. But yeah, it's interesting stuff. I think it's a bit of a pain, really, though, isn't it? But it's kind of what you've got to do to get that upgrade, really.
Absolutely. I mean, like, so in terms of going to Bali, you can either get a 30-day visa at the airport, and the queue is unbelievably huge, or you can get it just before you go online. And the real trick of getting it online is you can extend it by another 30 days as soon as you're there. So you can extend a 30-day visa in Bali by another 30 days, and you can do it when you're there, as long as you've bought it online. All right, so there you go. I maybe wouldn't wait for that one at the airport. I'd maybe get that sorted. In terms of Thailand, for being from the UK, you can stay there for 60 days at a time. You don't need anything. You just turn up.
Yeah.
And the Vietnamese 3-month visa looks quite straightforward. Not too much hassle. However, extending those is, so if you want to stay somewhere for a year, 3 years, 5 years, even beyond, there is obviously and some quite impressive businesses who provide those services at a hefty cost, interestingly. I imagine that's going to be a decision. If I do want to stay somewhere, do I invest in someone to do it all for me, or do I take the gamble and do it myself? I haven't decided. But Dan, what's your most essential item to pack when you go away? Because obviously biking's your hobby, isn't it? You can't take a bike with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of planning to replace that almost with climbing mountains, and obviously gym as well. But obviously you can't really bike around Bali unless you want to get knocked off by a moped. But yeah, it's interesting. Do you have any like outdoor hobbies like that, like golf, for
Oh
example?
yeah, I love golf, but I can't take my golf clubs.
Yeah,
My wife did the London Marathon. We've been working up to sort of 10K. Actually, interestingly, all of them have got marathons. So there's a marathon at Angkor Wat around the historical complex. There's one in Thailand in Hua Hin or Hai Hin. Make sure I get that pronunciation right, in May. So actually, that's another thing that we've done, is try to track where we could run as a hobby, if that makes sense. One thing I'm desperate to do in Bali is the Bali Run Club at Canggu. Have you looked at this? Real famous, free. I think they go on a Tuesday or Thursday morning from a certain cafe. You meet up, you run, you meet like-minded people. That was the inspiration behind me jogging at home around the park, so I could be fit enough to go to run with them. That's like visualization, however you want to call it, but actually having like a goal in your mind of, right, this is what I'm going to do. I want to be at this certain level of fitness before I go. Yeah, inspiration behind the Bali Run Club, which I saw by chance on my honeymoon in Uluwatu years ago. So what's that? Hundreds of people running together, networking, talking, enjoying themselves, etc. I can't wait to do that. But that brings me on to another thing. There are lots of communities, lots and lots of communities. That nomad.com community that I signed up looks fantastic. You have an opportunity to meet like-minded people with a system that looks a little bit like Tinder, where looking for friends with a Tinder style app. But I can't wait for all that, and that's not going on in the UK. That's just simple. I feel like that's the best opportunity about traveling, is the enrichment, isn't it? Is meeting people on a that are living life, if that makes sense. So yeah, you're going to look to take any of that up, down, any of the communities or digital nomad sort of meetups?
yeah. I think there's a lot of places that you can meet new people, like the co-working places, especially. I've heard that those are really good in Bali and Thailand. Even like gyms and stuff. You're going to meet a lot of people there. And also, I'm looking to do Muay Thai as well. So hopefully, I'll be meeting some people there. I've got a few friends who do Muay Thai, so it'll be an interesting experience. Hopefully, I don't have a black eye for the next podcasts after that, but we'll see.
Look, you should do it. I mean, it's actually a really good point about the co-working spaces. So when I originally thought about going, I thought, that's it. I'm going to stay in one of these places for a month, 2 months, even longer. I was going to book it. Just thought I passed it by my wife, and she was like, absolutely not am I staying somewhere where it's all about work all the time and you'll just be lost in it. Actually, when you think about it to level, that was quite a good decision from her, wasn't it? It was to set a boundary. You know, it's like, as much as I was looking forward to doing it and I wanted to do it and I wanted to really invest myself in these areas and be around all these people, you know, there's more to life than just work as well, isn't it? I think that's another great reason to go and do this is to invest yourself in it. If you thought anything about the time zones when you're away, because I think that will give us something different, by the way. So our morning in Bali is evening in LA. So it gives us the opportunity to tap into a whole different market, if that makes sense. Have you thought
Yeah.
about that at all?
Yeah, I have. Because obviously I have to do some posting and stuff. I can schedule, but I don't really like scheduling because it's obviously it doesn't feel as authentic.
Yeah.
And even if I can feel that, I feel like if I can feel that, my audience will be able to feel that eventually. So I think is it 1 o'clock in the UK is about 10 p.m. in Bali.
Mm.
So I'll have a good few hours in the UK morning, in the Bali afternoon to kind of do that kind of stuff. But obviously, I love getting ahead in the morning and getting that work done, which is going to be perfect because most of my clients are going to be asleep in the UK at like 3 a.m. So it'll be perfect, really.
Absolutely. I actually think this is a bonus to us, not something to miss out on. If you're working a 9 to 5 and you're trying to, you know, be like, imagine working a 9 to 5 and you work remotely, working in Bali. I think that would be such a headache because you'd have to live on UK times in Bali. That'd be hard. But with what me and you are doing and being an online coach, actually, I think it opens you up to a whole different market. I think actually the US market is a lot more open to coaching. Is a lot more open to this space that we're in. And I think that's a benefit. I think that's probably one of the main reasons for us going, actually, is living on a different time zone. And I can't wait. I can't wait. Dan, anything more you want to add?
I think you've summed it up very well.
No, perfect. I can't wait, Dan, and I'm glad that me and you are going on this journey together. And again, we talked about catching up, didn't we? When we're there and after it, you know. So yeah, great stuff. Dan, thanks for joining, and let's catch up in a week or two.
Thank you.